Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Possible. Number 30. Of course, we have James back again, 30 in a row, doing a co hosting. And we have Jen back, the Arcane Observer, and she's back to tell experiences. And who knows, but as always, we never know where it's going to go. What did you think about the end of the intro there, James?
That was interesting. Call back to the previous episode here, I believe.
Yeah. As soon as we got done with the episode, I went and found that and cropped it and made it happen.
Nice. Yeah, it's great to be here as a co-host with my own co-host, Jen, for my show. Our show, I like to call it, really. And so, yeah, glad to be back here and with you, both of you, as well.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. I love that intro. I think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So it kind of gives a nice vibe, you know, of what we're in for. It's always I enjoy it, and yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I was sitting there playing with it at like midnight last Sunday. Should have been going to bed, but yeah, no, I couldn't help myself. It was in my head. I had to do it. Um, and see, you got brother Willie and brother LJ is in the house on LJ's double dipping, both on Rumble and YouTube, and brother Willie Desert Hangout getting the best music on the YouTube for sure. He's always got the good music playing. We got a Shadow Tale here. It's gonna be a good. It's gonna be the good one. What's up, Charlie Rose? Yeah, we sure talked about the Shadow and Shadow Knows and all that. I couldn't help it. I got that and what else did I get? I got something for the Wednesday show too. I think.
Mm. It was hilarious last weekend, last Sunday, that show on Shadows, and just, I think because we said the word so much, that very particular one shadow in that cat form was like, oh, hi. Yeah, you're talking about me, huh? Great.
Hmm.
It's funny.
Absolutely, she's over here. Actually, over to the side, hanging out. I'll ignore her for a little bit. Nope, never mind. She's not gonna be ignored. But yeah, we got some. No, I just remember hearing stories about that and talk about it. My grandma used to love that show, and we watched like reruns and stuff like that. And I think when we were able to, I think we bought it. I think my brother's got them all on DVD and stuff like that. Where he bought he's
Nice.
got all kinds of old shows. It's crazy. He's got probably he's got hundreds of whole seasons and stuff, and he puts it all on his computer, and he's got terabytes of movies and stuff he's ripped and burnt down a bunch of drives to do it. But
Yeah, my dad does the first part. He collects all like DVDs of shows he likes, but he definitely does not do the computer transfer thing. He's not into that at all. But he's got quite the DVD collection.
oh yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's cool to to rip it if you can, if you know how to do that. I mean, it takes a lot of space, so like
Right?
a
Yeah.
lot of space. So you got to have some sure enough hard drives, a whole bunch of them. And he's got both. But then he has it on a little hooked up to a Raspberry Pi and just hooks it to his TV and puts it on play and plays all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, but tonight, like I said, we're going to try and talk some experiences. I know all three of us had some experiences. We've both talked about several of ours, James, over these 30 episodes for sure. Jen's going to come and tell some of her experiences, and we'll kind of bounce off each other and see how it
Yeah,
goes. And
yeah,
hope everybody had a great weekend for the 4th of July. Got to see family or shot off some fireworks, or I don't know. I was downtown Memphis for a little bit, but I got out of there before I didn't know if it's fireworks or gunshots, and which
yeah.
it looked like it turned into a. I did the right thing because it was a whole
Ugh.
bunch of chaos and arrests, and of course. What's up, brother Dave? Dave's Waffle House is in the house. I was thinking about you earlier, Dave. I was sitting there. I was like, all these videos from everybody from like the UK and stuff over here, and all the other countries enjoying like American food and the culture and stuff. I was like, man, somebody could, if somebody from like the South, like a real good chef or cook, could go back and just, you know, move to UK and open up a Southern food restaurant, and they wouldn't be able to keep the doors. The people would be beating the doors down trying to get in there. Because like you always see, I watched the video just a little bit ago. A guy was eating catfish and cheese grits, and he was just his eyes got so big, and he was like, I'm not moving. I'm not going home. I'm staying here.
Yeah, that's yeah, they probably would do really well. I probably should ask Jen, have you heard me talk about the dream I had with that was connected to Ricky and his family?
No, no, but I'd love to hear it. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I've mentioned this before a couple of times here and there, but it was hilarious. It was one weekend. It was either Saturday or Sunday. It was right before one of these shows, and a lot of times I sleep for a few hours during the day because my eyes they always get worn out, and so I've been for years. I've had dreams of people just sitting around on my back patio, and it's hilarious because they always bring their own chairs because I only have one chair back there, but they always have their own chairs, and I always thought for a long time that well, it just must be a regular dream, but even though it was so vivid, but this recent one I had kind of made me wonder about that because there was a group of people outside in the back again, and one of them came to the door, and he was an older man wearing kind of older, faded out clothes. I couldn't really tell what they were, and he wanted to come in, and apparently it was okay because I just let him in, and he came in and said something like, "I'm from Ricky's group," and he had Ricky's accent, like that the accent from that part of the country. And he handed me this book, and I could not. I don't remember now what it was. I didn't even remember when I woke up what it was. But it was a paperback book, and there was a $1 bill somewhere in the middle of the book being used as a bookmark. And I told him, I'm sorry, I can't read books in print anymore. And he said, that's okay, just keep it. Basically, this is all basically just what I remember vaguely. But so he handed me the book, and then walked back outside again, and then everything faded, and I woke up. And I was laughing because just it was like, wow, where did that come from? But just it's amazing to me that it seems like someone from Ricky's family, from who knows how far back, came to give me a some kind of message. I've had a couple of people talk about how the book itself may not be an actual book that we can find in the physical world. It might be just some kind of like a symbolic thing or a subconscious thing where I will figure it out in time. I don't know. I mean, it could be not. I'm not sure. But also the hilarious thing about that too was the bookmark because I had never heard of people using dollar bills as bookmarks until I talked to Ricky on one of these shows, and I even brought it up on Mike's show recently, one of those shows, and everyone basically confirmed the same thing. Like people do that, and I had never heard of that before or done that before. So it was a really vivid and an amazing experience because it was just it didn't seem like it couldn't have been anyone from my own family because my family is not from that part of the country at all.
Yeah, that's so weird. I wonder if like some of our own family ghosts, because we're interacting, if they like interact too in some way.
Yeah,
That'd be kind of wild, wouldn't it? And then, yeah, I don't know. Something I've noticed recently, like over the last week or so, and it's not been typical for me for a while, but I mean, I've been dreaming anytime I go to sleep. And I don't remember
mm,
them, I remember them pretty well, but I mean, I've been dreaming for like every time I go to bed, and then I'll wake up and I'll go back to sleep, and because I kind of get up and down the sleep and awake, sometimes. And
right.
I remember, like, I'm having extremely constant, consistent dreaming lately for the last couple of weeks, I would say, which is kind of unusual. I mean, I haven't been focusing on them at all or anything, but I don't even have to. It's just immediately going into a dream state, which is really odd. So I don't know if that's something going on with other people, but I remember like a couple of weeks ago, somebody saying the same thing back to me at work, and then that they had been having weird dreams and dreaming a lot. But then going back to encountering, other people's people in the dream world, I think it's completely possible that we might be encountering, or just by our interactions together, that you could potentially come in contact with other people's family spirits in a way, possibly, or at least the energy of them, and brushing against them in a conversation like we do sometimes. That it's possible. I don't see why not.
Yeah, a lot of people's and having, I've heard a lot more people talking about that. That maybe, you know, especially, a lot of people are feeling lots of different ways since CERN shut off. But even before that, it was like a shift. A lot of people were talking about how lucid their dreams have been, and I know for me personally, I've been able to I can go I can wake up, look around, and go okay, and then I could turn off alarm even and put my head back down and go right back into the to that lucid state.
Yeah, that's what's been happening. Like I'll wake up, go get a drink of water, go back and lay down or change position and while I'm sleeping, like wake up because I'm uncomfortable or too hot or something, and then go back to sleep. And it just goes right back into a dream. Like as soon as I, go to sleep again. But it's just been really easy to enter, and I'm noticing it after I wake up. It's not as kind of lucid, I think, because I'm aware that, to some extent, but it's just all kinds of things too. Just all kinds of random stuff. Just random places, random people, random situations, but very consistently, like every single time I could actually fall asleep, which is odd, kind of.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I've had a lot of dreams lately, and I still have those weird alternate parallel universe dreams too. I had one recently where I was back in the house where I had my first experience. Of course, that place I would love to visit that place someday in this reality again. But I had a dream one night where I woke up in the house in the TV room lying on some kind of couch, and it was real. Like I could feel I was laying on something that was not my regular bed, and I could recognize the room. What's odd about it too is, so in my apartment, the way I'm facing the wall with the door to the patio on it, and in this dream experience, I was also laying on a couch facing the wall in the TV room that had the door to that patio, that deck over there on that. So I was facing these glass patio door walls, window wall things in two different places, and I tried to get back to sleep to come back here, and kind of made it a little bit. I fell asleep, woke up back there again, and my former aunt, because my aunt and uncle divorced many years ago, my former aunt actually walked in the room and said something like, "Oh, you're here again, huh?" And I said, "I guess so." And I just tried to fall asleep again, and eventually, a couple of times doing that, I was able to get back here. So it's another one of those weird situations where it's like I was stuck there for a little while. Just really odd.
For sure, for sure. It's amazing the power of dreams and way that it can affect us. You know, even people get in trouble for them. Like when somebody has a dream and their significant others in the dream and they get mad at them or whatever. But it's but I know like I said I hear more and more people talk about it, and like I said, I know me personally, I've been having it's like pretty much every night. I can be like I said, it's all over the place. Sometimes it's kind of where I understand or different places or different situations or uh, but they it is a weird feeling though being able to just open your eyes, look around, and then close your eyes and go whoop right back in and just be deep.
Yeah.
I can and within I can do it within my 10 minute um, snooze. I mean, be right back. And already, some people it takes forever for them to get back in deep sleep, and I'm over here just, and maybe that's part of it because I'm just wore down from the heat and the training and everything else going on. But I think there's more to it. What's up, Matt Sal? What's up, brother Chad? Appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah, I think there is more to it just because so many people, and we're hearing more and more people talk about that, just as what you were talking about there, Jen, with one of your coworkers mentioning that, and they're not following all of what we do. I'm guessing. So it's people that we meet that are not connected to our sort of circles of friends that talk about these things either on shows or just online in general. So now, what is causing that? I don't know, but it seems to be something that is happening in general.
Yeah, I mean, the person who told me that they were like, I was just in conversation outside, and they said, "Yeah, and I've been having weird dreams." That's what they said, and I said, "Oh, really? That's weird. I've been dreaming too, having a lot of weird dreams." I mean, I didn't say it immediately because they were, telling me. I was like what, and they told me something. I can't remember what it was. It was kind of odd. They didn't go into a great
Right.
deal of detail, but they are the ones that brought it up, like in that
Wow.
instance. And then there was another time, like in one of these dreams, I was laying in my bed, and I was looking out the window, not just laying there, looking out the window, and I could see perfectly clearly through the window, like the glass was like really clear, and it was nighttime, and I saw a couple of shooting stars, and then I saw like several of them, all at once, you know, in the dream. And then I talked to a friend of mine, and they told me they'd had a dream about falling stars, like seeing some shooting stars. And I was like, that is so weird because they're not going to believe you because it's like, well, they do. But I'm saying, like, it's just weird. Because why would people be dreaming similar dreams too? Like in that instance, it was. It wasn't anything scary or anything. It was just kind of really obvious. But now I only had that dream once. I didn't have multiple dreams of it. But it was odd just the coincidence of running into another person too talking about it. And I don't know if they were saying that because, but I mean, that's just, I think there's something to it.
That reminds me of it's kind of funny now, but it was freaky at the time. This it felt like a out of body visitation kind of dream I had. Again with that same house a few years ago. Uh, I was listening to Trouble Minds radio and fell asleep in my chair, but I found myself back in that TV room of that same house, sitting in the rocking chair that used to be in that living room, and there were people coming and going in and out through that same patio window, sliding glass door in that wall there. But I didn't recognize any of them, and I had this dream in the middle of winter, like February one year, a few years ago now, and they were coming and going, and I didn't recognize any of them, and no one ever looked at me, which is kind of weird. And eventually, all that traffic stopped. They were all carrying plates and cups like it was a summer like a get together kind of thing, which again didn't make sense for them to be not wearing winter clothes and coming and going like it wasn't winter outside, and uh, and I was still hearing the show at live as it was playing, and it was coming from in this that place, this TV that was on like a streaming platform display kind of thing. And I don't remember now what the show was about, but it was getting near the end of the show. But I got up after everyone stopped coming and going, and went and opened the sliding glass door just to take a look outside. And all I could see in the sky coming down towards the ground were these just lines of light, like over and over again, just filling the sky. So almost like shooting stars, but just like an
No, that's what I
impossible.
totally saw. That's what I saw too. I saw like one shooting star,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I'll make a wish," like literally in the dream. And then I saw another one, and I just kept laying there, and
Wow.
I don't know why, but like I almost, it was really weird. And then there was just a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. And it freaked me out. So I actually closed the sliding glass door and just and around that same time Mike's show actually ended and the house went quiet and I could tell or feel or sense there was someone else in the house. And I was kind of annoyed because I really wanted to like check out the rest of the house, but I also didn't know who or what this other presence was, so I just stayed in that living room or TV room until everything faded and I woke up. And the show had ended. Like it was, I was hearing it in the experience in real time, being in this other world where there was no snow on the ground either when I looked outside. It didn't look like it was February. So really, really odd experience.
Interesting. Chad in the chat said he had a dream the other night where he was in a place that should be familiar, but oddly different. And both those dreams, he was approached by someone saying, "This isn't your world," and then he
Hmm.
would wake up.
Wow. I've heard of that before, and people having experiences uh, with while dreaming. Because I do think dreams, that sleep state can be a way to access whatever else is out there, other dimensions, other levels of reality. I don't know what you want to call them, but I've heard similar reports before of that. So
Oh, for
that is
sure.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's the dream world is amazing. It really is. I know some people can control it. They get in a state they can actually control where they're going or what they're doing, or some like I can once I know I'm in the dream world, I can fly, I can do all this stuff, and once I figure out I'm in the dream world, that's when I wake up. Just boom, like oh, I'm not in reality, or I'm not here. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I, it's every time, every every time. I know I've said this a bunch of times on the shows and stuff, but every time I figure out that I'm asleep or I'm in dream state of whatever state I'm in, I guess when I wake up, just boom, like instant. Like I said, I can go right back to sleep, and if I need to, or well, it's just odd. It's just it just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, like how the importance of dreams. I mean, because if you look at it, like how much time of your existence that you spend on it, you're looking. Most people sleep at least 6 to 8 hours, something like that. So 25% of your life, you're in a different state. It makes you wonder, what all you able to accomplish in that state, and what all you can do in it.
Yeah. Yep. There's definitely something. I mean, half of my experiences with things I can't easily explain. Paranormal anomalous experiences. I'd say half of them happened while I was sleeping. That's a good
Mhm.
amount. That's a good percentage of experiences to have half of them be while I'm sleeping. I think.
I've had a couple, and like like the one I told the story about the guy named James actually, and then
Mm.
he was I came in. He was trying to get my attention, and I mean, it was just like in a movie, whatever. I know I've told this before. But it's been a minute, and it really did. It felt like the whole room got really, really big, or I got really, really small, and because everything got super cold. And then I looked down at the end of my bed, and there this dude standing there, and I just like knew he wasn't a person, he wasn't. And he kind of hit the bed and was like yelled at me. So I just did the normal thing you're supposed to do. You put your blanket over your head and like, all right, leave me alone. The blanket fort
Yeah.
protection. And so yeah, it was. And then the crazy thing about it was to me, way back then was like 2 days later, he came to me in a dream. Then I made him mad and he left, but because then he was having a full conversation with me. And then I remember, only part I remember was the end of it because I was like, well, what, asked him, what caused you to stay, to not cross over? And he got mad and yelled at me and left. And I never seen him again. But I'm not sure what all he was trying to, I never did really get the whole scoop of why he was trying to get my attention or what was going on. But because I made a bad before he could.
Well, maybe that made him cross over, made him realize something. I don't know. Maybe that's what I needed was someone to like, hey, what are you doing here?
Could be. Could be. What's up, Slim? Appreciate you being here.
Oh, I did have my closet door open again last night while I was on Discord talking with someone about weird experiences with
Oh, nice.
MJ. I don't know. I don't know how often he listens to these shows, but it was pretty funny. We were talking, and then we got done around midnight. I got up to go use the bathroom, and there was a closet door open. So
Wow. Lucky, like I said, I hadn't had a whole bunch of stuff happen here since I moved. At my old house, I used to have stuff happen all the time. I just kind of blew it. And I was like, whatever. And just kind of blew it off. Cabinet doors opening and closing. And, like, what? People were like, well, it's probably animals. I was like, well, both my animals were sitting in my lap when it happened. So it was something else. I was opening and closing my cabinet doors looking for something.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. The whole dream thing is fascinating, but I guess we should probably try to cover some other things here just besides dreams.
But dreams are so fun.
True. I mean, we
Yeah,
can talk about more dreams if you want to. I just thinking. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Jen?
Oh, I've had a lot of weird dreams. Actually, but I mean, only a few of them stand out. But yeah, isn't that weird how you can have like, I mean, years can go by, and then there's still dreams that were so vivid that they stick with you. They stick with
Yes.
you forever because they were um, so vivid, and in some cases very persistent. And so, but they're just so like you wake up from them, and you're just like, whoa, like what was that? So I mean, yeah, dreams are very powerful. I mean, it's a lot of people say that you know people get tired of listening to other people's dreams and things like that. I never really felt that way. I always thought it was really interesting if somebody had a really weird dream. I'd like to hear about it and kind of see how weird it was because I would have some dreams that were just so crazy that I was just like, wow. Like how do you? Some of them so wild that you're just like, I don't even know how I even came up with that. Do you know what I mean? They're that
Yeah.
far and they're so complex. And some of them repeating in the same locations or things like that. It's hard to ignore them. They'll stick with you for a couple of days, and then for the rest of your life, you're just kind of, for whatever reason. But yeah, But we can talk
Yeah.
about just whatever. It's fine with
Mm,
me.
yeah, ask this question before we get off of dreams and stuff like that. I know I don't remember what it was now, but I did for a long, long time. I did it for a while. And have y'all ever had under the chat too? If y'all want to comment, you ever had like a Groundhog Day dream? Like every day when you went to sleep, you had basically or very consistently within months or even years had the exact same dream over and over again. I know I used to for when like I was probably in my early 20s or something when I did it, but it would. I don't remember what it was now because it's been so long ago. But I wonder, I wondered that too. Like wonder how many other people were having a Groundhog Day type. You know, referring to the movie. If y'all haven't seen the Groundhog Day movie with Bill Murray, but where he just repeats the same day over and over again. Every day he wakes up, and at first he was messing around, and then he turned around, and then he started actually doing good things through and helping people because he knew exactly where people were going to fall, or they're going to choke, or whatever, and then the next morning he'd wake up and boop. But I had those dreams for a very long time, and it was like very similar, same thing. It was kind of eerie. But Jen or James, have y'all heard or actually seen that?
Uh, uh, oh, go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I mean, I have, yeah.
So
But
that's
I have,
funny.
yeah.
Sorry, I'll just go real quick again because I have not had that. I've had is reoccurring. Like several of my dreams have been about places where I had paranormal experiences. Uh, my what used to be my aunt and uncle's house, where my cousin and I had my first experience, and then my grandparents' house, where I had a few experiences there. I seem to visit those two places. A couple other houses as well that I've lived in or spent much time in, but really, I'd say the leader of the most frequent place I end up in dreams is my aunt and uncle's old house, and so but it's never it's weird because the places are constant, but it's never the same experience. So I can't say I've had the same or even really similar, the same kind of like a Groundhog's Day kind of dream experience. So, but yeah, that's I've heard of people having that. But sorry about that, John. I didn't mean to interrupt you two times there in a row.
No, not at all. No, I mean, pretty consistent. When I was younger, I had a lot of repetitive dreams when I was little. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I was when I was like 5, 6 years old, and it went on for so long it became quite an issue. I mean, it was every single night, and I dreamed the exact same thing, and it was it's hard to remember now. It just seemed so real that it seemed like it was happening, and it would be the same thing. I lived out in Texas, grew up there, and up near the Red River area up in northern Texas for a while. And previous to that, had lived in South Texas, Southeast Texas, and it all just when it just started, and it kept on going. So, and it went on for, like I say, it went on for so it was every night. It was, and it was this hooded figure outside of my house, and it looked when I would see it, it'd be like I woke up and rolled over to get like resituated or something, and I would see um, just at my window, because sometimes we leave the windows open. Texas, it's hot, and it would be the windows were I could pull it up on Google Maps, everything, and I've done that and actually looked at the house and everything, and it couldn't have been a real person, I don't think. You know what I mean? Because I would wake up from these dreams and like call out to my mom, and she'd come in there, and that was what the problem was, because it was just all the time to where they got concerned about it. That I was repetitively waking up in the middle of the night about it. But yeah, it was a. It was also too in this part of Texas. There was this area the town's known for. It's a Medicine Mound, which is like a sacred ground area for the American Indians that lived there at the time, the Comanche and a couple other tribes too. But and there were all kinds of stories I heard and everything, but I hadn't heard those stories yet. I was too little, but um, it would always be this cloaked figure at the window.
And back to the shadow people from
I'll
last
be
week.
right back. I'll be right back because there's a. I'll be.
Are you good,
No
Jen? Go
problem.
take care of yourself. What's up, Monique? Um, and so what Slim's comment made, some dreams seem to be years or decades. I have heard that story. I think I've had one before, one night. I really do. But you hear them stories where people turn around and basically live their whole life in that dream point where they get all the way up, or where they get to old, and then then they, even to the point where you hear some where they actually pass away and in their dream state, and they wake up and they're alive and back young, and it's like, what the hell happened? I've lived and loved, and wife passed away, and had loss, and all these other things, and all of a sudden it was all in a dream world. It was very emotional for them.
Yeah, and to me, that I mean, I could be wrong, but that hints at more than just a regular dream. That hints at them existing on some other level of reality or existence or whatever, and literally spending a life there. Because you hear about that, years, like you said, decades even. So I don't know. It seems to me like they're maybe they're living. I don't know if it's their own existence somewhere else or if it's someone else's that they're tapping into and like, see, I don't know, but it seems to me like there's something to that more than just a regular dream. And when it's that big of a you know big of a deal for them, and I've heard that too. That when they wake up, it's like they've lost a family.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some that had friends and or family members and kids and grandkids, and all of a sudden now it's poof.
Yeah, so in that dream situation there, I mean, for the longest time, I didn't even, because when I would call out, it'd be like I was awake. Like, I'd call out because I was seeing it. And, it was, and I would be afraid to go to sleep. That was the other issue. I mean, I wouldn't put up a big fight about it because I wasn't really, didn't want to be difficult or anything like that, but I'd just be like, oh, I just remember being really upset about it, having to go to sleep because I'd be afraid of having that dream again. And I would tell them that dream, and it went on for a while, and eventually they even, um, you know, were like, well, kind of interceded in a way about it. And then just like that, like on that instance, it just stopped. Like what they did was so, I don't know how or like by what mechanism or anything, but what they did, I just never had that dream again. And I've never seen it since. But it went on and on and on. So much so that I still think about it, about what it could have been, or because it was, I'd like freeze up when I'd see it. Like I couldn't, like I'd be like in a total zone and couldn't move, that kind of thing. And I'd kind of snap out of it, and like it would reach up its hand, like it had like it reach up its arm, like point at me.
Mm, yeah, yeah, and memory is a weird thing. We actually, Jen and I are going to cover that in our next show on a Saturday because there's all this. I've heard over the years that memory is not. We're not actually remembering things when we remember them. It's some other process that happens where we're remembering remembering it. Like literally, I didn't say that accidentally. Like it's not the same as memory, but there's things that happen. I should go back, and so people say I've heard people say on different shows and things, and read different things online that memory is not reliable, and yet there are some things that happen to a person that they never do forget, and a lot of these anomalous experiences seem to be in that category of there's some that may fade over time. Like there's things that I forget about that I don't remember until uh, in a conversation something reminds me of something, a paranormal experience I had. There's things like that, but then there's other ones where you know they're I remember them very clearly to this day, even though they're experiences that happened 30 years ago or so.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. What's up, Mr. Trouble Minds and Mr. Doomsterdamus? Appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, it's like I said, especially like Slim's comment. You live a lifetime and have to get up for work in the morning like nothing ever happened. It's it's eerie. It makes sometimes I wonder like hey, are we how is it? Are we seeing a glimpse into our future, or is it a glimpse into somebody else's future? I mean, are we? Do we get to? Are we? Especially when the times that you know go through years in a night, basically on a speed run in somebody's life. You watching back like watching a marathon on somebody in the background. But
Right.
I wonder, what, how is how is it you hear. I'm trying to put my words together how I want to put it. You know, some people just blow it off though. They're like, well, what did you eat right before you went to bed? Did you eat
Yes.
spicy food or did you eat this or whatever? And did that cause you to have? And sometimes, hey, maybe some cause effects there. Some maybe, as always, we like to be the e all is above. Maybe some of them are you know food related, and it causes you to have different things. We know, of course, we know if you take like DMT or even like the what was it mushrooms I showed on the show on Wednesday a while last week or week before last. It didn't even have psychedelics, but it made you see little people and stuff. You take something like that, and take some kind of food, and it makes you see things. So
Right.
maybe other things do make it causes reactions for sure. Spicy stuff causes reactions in your brain, makes it fire different ways, and so I guess anything there is. And that's how. So when you eat and drink, intoxication affects your dreams. Yeah, and for sure, like if you've been under the influence of alcohol or something like that, it really dreams get wild, wild as can be. Or even if you're taking anything else, you don't even have to
I've
take
even
psychedelics.
Yeah, I've even heard the opposite, where drinking a lot or whatever, a lot for let's say each individual person, whatever that may be, can diminish either dreams or their sensitivity to other, like to ghosts and things like that. Um, and I mean, there's so many haunted restaurants that are around. Uh, if you look online for that, you'll find all kinds. And I do think going to this sort of more like the ghost level things, um, I do think that when people are taking, I've heard accounts of people who work in bars and they've seen people walk in and they sit down and have a few drinks, and then these people that are bartenders or whatever, they'll be also somewhat sensitive and they'll see like energy or orbs or whatever go into a person, and then that person will start acting in different ways, like
Hmm.
they're temporarily being possessed almost, and then eventually the whatever it is will fade out. fade away and go away, and then they'll be back to normal. And but also like almost looking around like they're confused. So and I went to there's this one bar that my dad and my uncle's band played at one time, and it was funny because like the bar itself felt fine, but there was this one doorway that led to another part of this building that was another store, another business. And every time I walked by this doorway to go back into the bar to use the restroom, I felt like there was someone standing there watching and just like keep an eye on everything in the bar. And but of course, whenever I looked, there'd be no one there, and it was like I never saw anyone open that door. So who knows if it was even it could have been locked for all I know. But it happened a few times that night because I was there for like I don't know 4 hours or so. And every time I walk by this door, it's that feeling of, oh, there's someone there. Oh, wait, no, there's not. But it feels like there is.
It
So,
could have been.
anyway,
It could have
yeah,
been the original owner who knows, was
yeah,
still watching over the crowd and the music and still, doing what they had always done.
yep,
And kind of like, the Sixth Sense movie. He did the same thing. He'd always go down his basement and work or whatever and
yeah,
turn around. Well, there's something wrong with this door here. Huh. Let me get the key with the
yep.
red doorknob.
That was a good movie.
It was one of the ones you for sure had to go back and go, oh, let me watch this again.
Yep,
So then you understand like everything. You see it on a whole different point of view. You see all the little details, all the little nudges, and explanations for all the weird awkwardness and between Bruce Willis and his wife and all that stuff. Everything's explained once you see it at the end, and you're like, oh, let me watch this again.
and
Let me
it
see what
was
I missed.
yeah, and it was so like the paranormal aspects were so subtle. That's what I liked about it. Um, is that it wasn't your stereotypical scary or horror movie. And to me, a lot of times that subtle, like these things, these experiences often are a lot more subtle than what Hollywood would usually show us in TV shows and movies. It's not always going to be a apparition right in front of you. Sometimes it'll just be a closet that ends up opening on its own somehow, and you can't,
Hmm.
you don't know why or how it happened.
Yeah, man. So yeah, the color red was significant in that movie. So if you haven't seen it, or if you just go back and watch it again, if you haven't noticed that detail, look for blatant red items through the movie, and that was one of the tells.
Yeah, I would like to hear, Jen, more of your experiences if you have any you'd like to share, because always happy to. Yeah, I know you've heard all of mine just about at this point from the whole series we did on our show.
Well, I mean, it's a weird mix of things. So I've told about that. Prior to that, I was about 4 years old or so, and we lived. I remember, I remember eating donuts. Like I woke up or something, but the memory of it I have is that we were sitting around the table in the house, and my mom had bought donuts, and it was like dark outside, so it must have been like really early in the morning, and it was odd. It stands out because we didn't just have donuts. That was like anyway. So I remember us sitting around the table, me and my siblings, and eating donuts, and then they were loading everything up onto an open trailer, you know, and we got into the car and we were driving for a long time. And they drove all day, and so that was leaving North Texas, and we were moving down over into this area near Texarkana, and outside of there in this very small town. I talked to my mom about it recently. She used to tell us these different stories all the time to the other adults, like when they'd be playing cards and stuff around at my grandma's house about this house. So they moved into we moved into this house, and I remember when they were unloading everything off the trailer, the neighbors came up and they said, you ought to put chicken feet over the door, over the porch. And I remember her telling that story, and I remember just how weird that was about hanging chicken feet over the door. And it's a way to like keep out, evil spirits and stuff apparently. But apparently the house had been used as like a place for holding wakes and stuff. So in some of these old houses before they had funeral homes, I guess they would have wakes in some of these bigger houses that were associated with like like where they would hold those sorts of things. And people had moved into it, I guess, over time. And some of the recent people who'd moved into the house were, I guess, rumored to be involved with some kind of activities, or something. And I remember my stepdad, he was going to put in run a bait shop off of the river that ran that ran through there. And there was some issues they ran into, but one of them was that the barn that was outside of the house, I remember them cleaning it out, trying to clean it out. And it's really faint. I only remember these really key things. And they found out that it was infested with snakes. So they had some local guys come to like clear out these snakes. And they cleared out the snakes and they were pulling everything out of there. And in the very back of that barn, they found like a false wall door where a door had been, like in these old barns, they'd have many different little rooms in them for doing different things. And one of these was boarded up. And they pulled the boards off and everything, and they opened it up. And they said that it was like there had been all kinds of rituals done in that room. Like there was like animal feathers and symbols on the walls and the floor and like wax and all this stuff. And they just like nailed it back shut and closed it up. And he put his tanks in there for all the minnows and stuff. And there'd be like these water tanks with these bubblers and screens and all this stuff that he'd set up to do his bait shop stuff. And he couldn't keep, those minnows would all die. So he couldn't, like there was something wrong with, and he was really experienced with doing this, and they
Right.
would all die in that barn. And then there was this little boy I remember playing with when I was little. And my mother, like when I would talk about this, she'd say like, she doesn't remember ever me playing with this little boy. It's really weird, but like, I was about 4 years old or something like that. But I remember he could, 4 or 5, somewhere around there. But he would, there's stickers really bad in the grass. They're like these sticker burrs. They get stuck in your feet if you're out running around barefoot. And he could, like, I'd be out there in the yard playing, and he could run across this patch of grass out in the open yard. There was a big field there, kind of. He could run across it and not get any stickers in his feet. And he'd run, and I'd try to do it. He'd be like, he'd just run through there and not get any stickers. And I'd do it, and I'd get a foot full of stickers, and be tiptoeing back up. And that happened, I just remember that one instance with the stickers and everything and how he could do it. It was like magic or something. Because it's impossible to do, at least in my memory of it. But it was so weird because my mom said that she doesn't remember me ever playing with whoever this little boy was. And then, too, that she'd be like in the kitchen at night, cleaning the kitchen or doing whatever, and she'd hear me in one of the rooms. And we had just moved in. Like, the mattresses were on the floor. They hadn't even set up all the furniture and stuff. And she said that she'd hear me talking, and she'd come in there to get on to me. But I'd be sitting up talking. She'd be like, who are you talking to? And I'd say, I'm talking to that little boy right there. And she was, like, there's nobody there, But anyway, she would just tell me to lay down. And that happened just over and over again. And they, whenever they first moved in too, she said that they were pulling everything out of the house, and they were just burning it in this big bonfire. Because they just, do that. So they were pulling stuff out of this old house and out of the closets. The closets are those in these old houses. They're narrow, but kind of like really tall ceilings, and they run, narrow through the wall there. And there was an upper shelf and then an upper shelf, and she was pulling stuff out. And apparently, they came across some books that they were really concerned about, and like my stepdad started to open one of them. My mom was like, don't open that. What are you doing? And they said that they tried to burn that book. And, obviously a heavy object won't, like a book, a condensed object won't just set on fire. But they
Hmm.
said that, like, they watched it and it stood out to them so much that they would tell that story about how I wouldn't light on fire. And they just kind of shoved it up underneath all the hot embers and stuff like that were under the fire. And I remember like this fire, like these fires that when they would burn stuff up like this. And in Texas, there's kind of like this weird thing where they'll have these huge bonfires and just burn a lot of things at once. And people will bring
Hmm.
stuff and they'll throw stuff into this fire. But it was like a big fire. Like they were burning furniture in this fire. That's how it was. It's not like a fire. This is like a like a big fire. And I don't know. It's just really odd that it stood out to them as something strange in that regard. But we moved from that house after, I don't know, we weren't very long there, and then we moved back, right back, and to the other house. And none of that was happening scared me particularly. I was too young to be scared really, but there was another instance where I saw this man in that house at the original house I'm talking about. That was supposedly a parlor house, and I saw this man, and he was like not wearing any clothes or anything like that, but he looked like he'd been underwater. And I saw him like in this hall, like in the hallway, the way that the rooms went off the big main room. I saw him on like there was like a door that opened up off into the hallway, and then there was just like they had split the room up with a couch. Went around that couch, and there was another door off that same big room. The way it was laid out was kind of an open floor plan. But I saw him on one side, and I had crawled around like just around to the other side, and I saw him. I thought I saw him on the first door, and then I crawled around the other side and I saw him. And I was like, started screaming, I got really scared and everything.
Yeah.
Like I just screamed out. But they didn't see anything. There was like nothing there. But it looked to me like somebody who had been underwater for a long time. Like all wrinkled like you get if you're in the like in water for a long time. And
Yeah.
then we moved to the house I'm talking about, where a lot of extended family and stuff is. And the house that I was talking about, there I started having all those dreams and stuff. And that started pretty much almost immediately once we moved into that new house. And it was way um, out in the county, and it was like a pecan fields and just boonies basically, just a lot of tall grass and not a lot of trees or anything. But there was a pecan orchard that was out there, and so it's just this brick house and that pecan orchard, and then a few other houses, kind of around outside this very small town where we had an extended family that lived there on my stepdad's side of the family, and they'd lived there for like generations or something. But that's where I started seeing like having that repetitive dream thing, and it just seemed like it was tied together in some way. But after that um, thing that they did with the dream, like where they were like, this is getting too much. My stepdad, like I remember him setting me up on the kitchen counter, and he made this mixed up this concoction and had me drink it from like a funnel. I kid you not, it sounds really weird. And then he put his hands on either side of my head and like began, like he was pulling something out of the sides of my temples. And then I had to finish the whole like concoction. It was like this very spicy I just remember that like it was really too almost too hot to drink. Like not hot, but like just chili peppers,
Right.
like really hot, and I had to drink the whole thing. And then he sat me down on the floor and put me back into bed. They put me back into bed, and I never had that dream again. It was so weird, and it just went away. And I didn't even know if it would, but it had such an impact that I never saw that again. I never had that dream again. Not any time in my life ever. I've had that dream again. It was the strange, but it had went on before that for like almost a year or something. It went on and on and on. But it's super weird.
For sure. That's very interesting, especially whatever you get to drink to uh, to help pull whatever you.
It was like the spiciest drink. Like it was peppers and like I don't know. He put a bunch of stuff into like a glass or something. I wasn't really paying attention, but it was just very very spicy. Like almost so spicy that I almost like couldn't. And even after, my mouth was on fire.
Mm.
Well, I bet. Nostradamus made the comment probably should have dug up the floor of the barn. He said, "I'll bet there would be bones." I wouldn't doubt it. With all the feathers and everything else, probably is some bones buried in that secret room.
And that boy to me is fascinating because I've heard so many similar accounts and read so many similar accounts over the years of people having memories when they were kids of playing with other kids or having or meeting other adults even that their family their the adults in their own family thought were like imaginary friends or just didn't think they existed at all or any of that. And then but the kids still remember these experiences years later when they're adults. And what makes me think that is the way that little boy was able to run across that yard without getting anything stuck in his feet. I mean,
It
that's
was
to me.
impossible. It was
Yeah.
literally impossible. Like in my mind when I was young like that, it was like he had done some kind of magic or something. It was incredible because, and I remember, like, well, kids kind of play really organically. Like I'd just be out in the yard playing, and it'd be really hot, we're out there just playing. We're
Right.
kind of just going around, and then they come up and they start playing too. So you're kind of just hanging around with each other, just playing. And I don't remember, anyone else being around, but he just ran across the area where you couldn't walk barefoot because you'd get stickers in your feet, but he would do it. Well, he wouldn't walk across it. He would just run through it. And I thought, I was like, well, he's got to run really fast. That's what it
Right.
is. And so, like, I'd just try to run really, really fast because he'd run across it. And sure enough, though, I'd get right in the middle. And yeah, I was like, oh, nope, that's, you know. But yeah, but it was odd how he was able to do that.
You just weren't running fast enough. That's all. You just weren't running fast
I
enough.
wasn't running fast
That's
enough. That's what it was.
But yeah, it sounds like it was possibly a ghost boy. I mean,
I
whatever
wondered
ghosts
that,
are.
and I thought they didn't at the time. It was like he was flesh and blood right there. Like
Right.
he was wearing like shorts, and barefoot. I remember him very clearly, and he
Right.
stood out because it was just really obvious to me that like he was there. And but my mom talking about, yeah, she was talking. She says she's talking to that little boy in there, and it really kind of began to weird her out though. That's what it was,
Oh yeah.
you know, because I kept doing it, and so like, and then she started thinking, there's something weird going on with it because and then I was seeing that, but the whole story with all of it, it's just really weird because I thought that they could probably see him. I just it was so weird. Like when in the bedroom at night, I don't remember talking to anyone. I don't remember anything like that, but she does. They do, but I don't remember that. They remember, and when I talked about the outside, playing with them outside, they don't were like, no, there was no, not around anywhere. So it was just odd, you know. But and they would tell these stories though around the table and stuff when we moved back to our hometown. about that house. The whole time I was growing up, I would hear like this, and it's the same exact stories. Um, and even I called my mother like several weeks ago to look up that house in that town just to see if there was any historical records about it or anything. And um, she was like, "Oh yeah, don't you remember? That's that where you talked to that little boy out there and everything." And da 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 da. And I was like, "Yeah, I know. It's super weird. And, I'm just trying to find something on it." And I sent her multiple pictures of the streets there because it's a town of like 195 people. It's a very small town, and so to narrow down where it was and everything, and they had built a house in the lot that was next to the house. So it was directly across from like their that county's volunteer fire department.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I'm glad that the bad dream experiences did stop because it's not. I had a week of. This was a few years ago. I had a week of nightmares, like 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, and that was not fun.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, they stopped entirely. I mean, that was it, which is really weird. Just that it had that kind of, I don't know if it had psychological impacts or obviously, but that was it. And at the time, I didn't think it would work. Like, I remember when I remember being, probably 6 years old and being like, you know, not really thinking it would help. But anyway, I went back to bed and it never happened again, which is just really odd.
So after the spicy drink, you never seen the boy again?
No, nope. And I never saw that figure at the window after that. I had other experiences, but not those.
I was sitting there
that's
wondering
interesting.
um, if you could remember, did the boy have like his clothes and stuff? Did they look like they were like same time frame as, you know, were they out of place a little bit, or did it?
He was a little black boy, and he was just wearing shorts, like white shorts.
Oh wow.
Huh. Yeah, that's amazing that it stopped. Both of those things stopped after that. I didn't. That was a good question, Ricky, because I hadn't thought about that before. Uh, so yeah, no, that's. I just wonder too. I mean, it may have even been that like I don't know if Jen, your stepdad, like knew what he was doing, but he just knew he had to do something, and he put all of his
No,
energy, or
they do all kinds of weird stuff, like
right,
um they'd blow smoke and stuff, and they'd picked up all kinds, like I don't know, his family had lived there in North Texas. My whole family is right there from that area. And there's a lot of lore. There was a so Medicine Mound is this area of Texas I'm talking about is perfectly flat. Like you can look and see storms coming from miles away. You can see the lights in another town. Like that, it's so clear and rural and farming communities, and it's just prairie grass. So it's prairie land basically on the Red River, and there's a lot of Native American stuff that they're concerned about. Like they believe that there were witches. It's just it's a misunderstanding about the cultures, kind of
right,
coming together and around that area and everything. But they were particularly concerned about them. And there's some of my family is, from like there's just all kinds of beliefs about what was going on. But they would have these different outside of the big cemetery that's outside of there. There's an area where they buried like other people that they were afraid of, I guess, but kind of that concept that they believe that he would tell stories, they would tell stories about that there were witches out there in the grasslands and stuff like that.
right.
And so they believed in all kinds of things, and of course, I'm sure, there was some influence from that or something. But I remember them doing, like, I got chicken pox at that same house I'm talking about that had the pecan orchard and everything. And they brought my grandma and my great grandma, and they like just had me under the sheets and everything. I remember them like they just did. They were just I guess a little eccentric, but mostly just you know had different ways of handling things. Like they would rub tobacco into stuff, and like I say, the blowing smoke. There's a lot to do with that, and um, well, I guess it's superstitions kind of mingled with uh, like some Christianity, kind of mingled in.
Right.
You know.
With tobacco, they can like tobacco is good for like wasp stings and stuff like that. You get stung, it'll pull the poison out, and
Yeah.
that, that's
And they
why
blow smoke in the ears for like earaches and stuff, and they just
hmm
thought I guess tobacco would fix anything, and they would do that, and
yeah.
um, just all kinds of stuff. So yeah, really interesting. And stray
That
dogs. There was like
reminds
a big thing about stray dogs too
hmm,
and stuff.
that reminds me of something, a story my grandma told me many years ago about when she and my grandpa they lived down in, I think, in Mexico, or in Texas, in that general area. And there was this older woman there that before she passed, she asked them, or at least one of their families, to help take care of like her after she passed, like to help take care of her body and her house and everything, like for her wake, because she didn't have any family. And so when she passed, they took care of all the sort of the ceremony, or the whatever the cultural practices were in the area at the time, and they had a wake. And this woman, apparently, when she was laid out for the wake, she ended up, because I guess of the natural processes that can happen in a body, ended up sitting up straight in the middle of the wake a couple of times. And that's how my grandma explained it, was it must have been something to do with the body itself, but it freaked everyone out. And there, like, this woman had like all kinds of chickens around. They were all like gathered around the house, like really close, which was not what they would always do, I guess. So it's just really this weird like border of, was anything paranormal going on or was there not? And
Yeah.
they everything went fine after, like they gently laid her back down again. But it did happen a couple times, and then eventually, everything calmed down and everything was okay, and she was buried and everything was fine. But the general idea around that area was that that woman was a witch, and my
Yeah.
grandparents didn't know for sure, but they also, they're respectful people. They weren't gonna like go back on their word, so they did what they had to do. And but
Like
yeah, it freaked them out.
it does. Like with that when they tell that story about those minnows. Like I remember the whole. They'd have this big round table at my grandma's house, and all of them would be sitting around, probably like I don't know, 14 adults. Like all sitting around this table. Crammed in the corner. They'd all be there playing cards and stuff like that, and there'd be like they'd be anyway they'd just be playing cards, and we'd have to sit there like all night while they were playing cards. Like all the kids
Yeah,
would
I
be in
remember
the
that.
living room, and they'd be, and they'd talk. Eventually they'd be telling these stories. But when they talk about those minnows dying, oh my gosh, all of them were just like, oh, like that was, like y'all should have moved right away, and they were talking about all kinds. It was just, yeah, it really stands out just because of how serious they took it. But like with those dreams I was having, for the longest time, it was like they just tried to kind of like they'd console me and everything, but they just try to kind of ignore that. But then when they did
Right.
that, it was like it fixed it right away though, thankfully. But I remember when we first moved into that house, I remember seeing ants, and that was really weird because like I had never seen because it was just so weird. I remember laying down, and it wasn't that strange, I guess. But I lay down in the bed, and my great grandma had given us her bed for me to sleep on because they had left. they didn't have my bed. And so I remember the first night in that house, laying in my great grandma's bed, and on the pillow, like on the sheets there, and that light coming from the living room from the TV or whatever, I thought I saw ants in the like on the pillow, and I sat up and and there was like no ants there. And that's really, I know it sounds silly, but like it was impossible that there were ants. Like 'cause, I mean, even though
Hmm.
it's not, there's just no way there could have been. It was so strange, but there actually wasn't. It was like I saw the ants and then didn't, and like when I mentioned that, like I guess they were. It sounds silly, but to them they thought that was something really odd. You know.
It's weird. Every once in a while in this apartment, middle of the day, I'll see like a shadow, tiny little shadow on the floor, and it'll be like I'll be looking around and doing other things, and I'll see something, and I'll look down, and it'll be gone. And it doesn't happen all the time, just once in a while. But I kind of I get what you mean because like it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's not super. It's not like the size of an ant because I don't think I'd be able to see it if it was that small. But it's also just small enough, but also just big enough where I'll see it, and it's not Logan. It's not my cat. I mean, she's obviously a lot bigger than that, and it'll just be there. And then as soon as I look straight at it, it's gone, and I
Yeah,
don't
I don't know.
know what it
With the
is.
ants, my mom would say to my actual like my grandma and her sisters that I'd seen ants on the on my bed. And they were just like, "Oh, like that's like it's if I mean nowadays, like I guess, I don't know, the housekeeping or whatever, but like it was unthinkable like
Right.
in my mother's house that there could have been ants like in my bed or at all. But there weren't. It's like I just saw them and then they weren't there. But they thought that that was some type of something beginning or
Mm,
like a type of problem or something, even though it seems like a reasonable thing. Like, sometimes you get ants in the house, but for them, it was like there's no way there could be ants in the house, which is silly in Texas, but it was some kind of thing, like there was a bad sign to
Hmm.
have ants in there. So it's kind of silly. I don't
that's
know.
sort of that reminds me of the way now you hear about in all these famous cases of negative hauntings. It's always bugs or mosquitoes that supposedly show up. Um, and a lot of times it is actually mosquitoes, but then they'll appear and then they'll be gone after a certain time. That's kind of odd, that similarity there. I don't know. Hmm.
I got
Oh,
more fun stuff to add to that. Just looked it up,
it's just weird.
like one of them curiosities here, and I was like, I Googled search real quick. I was like, what does it ants in your bed, mean like in your dream? And it popped up and said, finding ants in your bed spiritually signifies creeping anxieties, breaches of your personal boundaries, or feelings of being overwhelmed by minor issues.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that as simple as that, but that could have like concerned them. That's some kind of breach or something. I don't know. Because I mean, I think that their thinking of it was that if I was having sleep disturbances, that it was an issue for like, you know, they were all worried about it. Because I shouldn't have been.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. Huh.
And then I wonder on that, they're here and they seen that one. Did they see that they seen things and stuff like that, too, or it was just that you seen it? Because I wonder, if it was like, okay, yeah, like one of them things you blow off. Oh, I seen this over here. I seen this shadow, or I seen that. You can blow it off, but all of a sudden, and somebody else is seeing the same thing, just like the shallow story with my mom and my parents and my brother and stuff, and we heard that music, and I turned around, and I was like, maybe I'm imagining, maybe I'm not, and and then turn around and mom asked me if that's what I see. Did you see it? I wonder if that's in the same realm that hey, they had seen stuff like that already, and then hearing that you've seen it, of course, you being a little girl, they're more worried for your protection than their own kind of thing. That just how things are. You're more worried about other people and especially young ones than you are your own safety when it's all said and done, especially when your loved ones.
Yeah, and that's a
I
good
know.
question.
It
Yeah,
is.
go ahead.
It's weird. Oh, I got childhood asthma in that house too.
Mm,
And then it went away. It's really weird. Like childhood asthma. Like like you get some kind of thing and they like don't know what it is and then but I was at that house when I got childhood asthma for a little while. And then we moved and it went away. But I was at my grandpa's house. And I swear these people believe it's like my family like they believe that spices would fix anything cuz I remember like my grandpa giving me like A1 steak sauce when I was like they thought I don't know, it was so strange. But anyway, I went to the hospital and everything and there was this whole thing and it had been misdiagnosed as like some type of bronchitis or something. And anyway, at that same house, I got chickenpox, I got asthma. Like it was so weird. I drowned at another point, like well, almost drowned. They pulled me up like by my hair, like out of the water. Like the only thing they could grab was my hair, and like they pulled me up on my hair out of the water, and like just there was a lot of weird things that happened there that I recall. As far as the instance of that house and everything. But there was something going on, you know. It was just out in the middle of nowhere, though. Is weird too, and just kind of just what they put up on all of it. And it was weird that it went away when we moved. Like when we moved, it just got better. So I thought that was odd too.
yeah, and especially if they, if they weren't having their own experiences, uh, then it makes you wonder if, whatever was there was intentionally, unfortunately, messing with you more because you were a kid, and children can be more sensitive or open to these things than adults can in many cases. Or if the adults there did have experiences, maybe that's why they were partially worried, even if they never talked a lot about,
Well,
themselves
yeah.
seeing a lot of things. So I don't know. It could go either way with that.
I mean, this was like they were fairly traditional. So like adults and kids, like they just didn't like they had the kids table where all the kids ate and everything, and
Right.
I mean, you didn't really bother the adults unless they wanted you to do something, and they would. So it was very much a divided line. So if there was something going on with them, they wouldn't have told me about it. There would have been zero interaction with that whatsoever, except for telling me what to do. Do you know what I mean? It was a very
Right.
traditional house
Yeah.
in that regard, and so like, um, you know, as long as everything was on, you know, they kept everything just. It was so, um, I guess I don't know, organized in a way about the way that they handled everything. I remember when my grandpa was passing away. Well, he wasn't passing away yet, but when he began to, because I lived at my grandpa's house for a long time, also, and we all did. We all lived at my grandpa's house for a while, and there were a lot of weird things in that house too. And he was extremely, like he was, um, very, I don't know what you'd call it, like if it's superstition or if it's just religious or what, but like took it all very seriously. And he thought there was something. Remember, the first time he ever said anything to me, and I was probably about 7, 8 years old. But when he first said something about that, he was worried about something with the attic, and I told my mom, and it was literally like months later. They were all like, um, just really concerned for him, and he turned out he had Alzheimer's, and so that went on. So he was, but there was a whole other aspect of it that was going on that I remember him talking about, that he was hearing things up in the attic, and he would ask us if we had heard. So he went a little over the edge. Do you see what I'm saying? And when I
Mm-hmm.
told my mom about it, that Papa was having something about that, then they all got really concerned about it. But his house was this really old house that had been like I guess a doctor had lived there before he had lived there, but he was a farmer, and they had like 8 brothers, and they all had farmland there in that area of every kind, and they ran they repaired farm machinery, case farm machinery, and so I grew up around the shop. So he had this case farm machinery shop in the town that we lived in, and they did all the repairs and stuff like that, and they bought all the parts, and they sold tractor parts and all of that for farming and everything. But and I remember stories about their family too, and just it's just really interesting, and like how it just stands out that there's just something, it all melds together, and all that isolation, they have these very interesting accounts that just stand out. That you could call it almost religious in a way, but it's borderline extreme superstition that also ties in to the reality of the world that they're living in, and they're correlating everything in a way to having significance. Like there was significance to all the things that were happening, and they would correlate that it was something on on another level. So it's happening in the physical, but it's happening on some other level, and that makes it significant. So when he would hear things, like you know, up in the attic, interesting at the same time, he was losing much of his memory. At the time that he passed away, he had no idea who I even was, and I lived with him for like I don't know my entire like off and on my entire childhood. And when I remember looking at him and talking to him, and he said like he called me somebody else, one of his other daughters, and so he like just wasn't able to see it, but it was all significant, you know, and showed up
Right.
before it really happened.
I wonder on Alzheimer's and stuff, and it's terrible, but especially when they get full in there and where they don't have their memories of their loved ones and stuff. But the initial, you know, even after like a stroke, sometimes you see people, they go back to like a child mannerism sometimes for just a little bit. And I wonder, with the Alzheimer's and stuff like that, on some of the seeing things, I wonder if, to a point, it's taking them back to a more childlike mindset, and or it's like reversing, their mind to to back to the basics and stuff. They're letting all the information, all the stuff they've known and learned all their life and everything, all this disappearing. It's like, I wonder if it like puts them to a child state where they can start seeing some of the things like just like a child can. You know,
I don't know. He was so stoic and like so precise about everything. Like I remember whenever like he'd be like 4 o'clock in the morning, and you'd have to get up to like it was just he had like this regular routine about everything, and it was so regular, and it was really good, and he kept everything just in perfect order, you know. And when that all began happening with that, when he said that like the devil was in the attic, like he heard the devil in the attic, and then it was like months later, and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and the way that it all went, it was just so, to me, it like stood out so much. But what's weird too is that the house itself, like my grandpa's house, is that it was just, I don't know, there was something. I had multiple different experiences there at that house. And it was an old house. These are old houses out, like, just, from the boom of the farming industry. So, like, my biological father was from Arizona. So, like, they'd come over from Arizona following farm work and everything. And his family is buried in cemeteries in Eden, Arizona. And so, like, there's this whole blend over of people at that time in the children of the Depression era. And my grandfather lived through the Depression era. He would tell stories about the Dust Bowl and everything, and about the impact of all of that. And they were just full of all these historical informations. It was just fascinating. But then their belief systems too, you couldn't dismiss them. Um, you had to take it into account, and it was just, yeah, it was just, typically of, how families are, how you have all this, the way it, and then when something comes in like that, like with Alzheimer's or something like that, you just think about the the amount of order that he had in every aspect of his life and everything. It was unimaginable that he was losing control of how he saw reality or whatever. When they took his keys away, oh my god, I remember how mad he got and everything. But it all stands out really clear, you know.
Yeah, I do think even without Alzheimer's, I think that's one dimension of this too. But just in general, when people are getting closer to passing, I do think that they can become more a little, even if it's only a little bit more childlike, in that they're not having to sort of act the way people think that they should act at that point. They're just kind of they're again they're closer to the other side and possibly picking up on
Yeah.
more of that. My great grandma, she was not completely all there before she passed, but there was one day apparently she saw all of her deceased siblings, all the other daughters, came to visit her, and but they all appeared as were when they were kids, like children. But and it was a positive experience. It wasn't scary in any way for her. And
I have
most of my
something on that.
family, yeah, sorry.
No, when you get done.
Okay. Most of the family, I think, figured that it was just, again, it was all within my great grandma's mind, but I don't think it's always that simple.
So my mother took care of my grandmother when she was passing.
Mm.
And she moved and went there back to Texas from Montana and went to take care of my grandmother when she was passing. And she was the oldest daughter, and so she did it. And my grandmother stayed in her own house and passed away in the same room her mother passed away in. So, like, my great grandmother, the room that she passed away in, my grandmother passed away in her elder age. And my mother said that when she was watching and taking care of my grandmother, that she would see, and my grandma would talk about seeing, relatives and things coming from and coming into the room. But my mom says she would see like shadows and things moving across the hallway and stuff in the room when she would sometimes be in there. But she said that um, that she would see it too sometimes. And my mother is not that superstitious. She's very pragmatic, extremely pragmatic woman. And like, but her account of it too, that that she saw it, and she said that when my grandmother passed away, that there was this crease on her forehead that when she woke up, like it hadn't been there the day before, but it was there after. She pointed at it and she said, "Do you see that?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "That wasn't there. I woke up with it after your grandmother passed away, and it was there." And it's very obvious. It's a very distinct, just crease on her forehead, like between her eyebrows. You would think of it like the, typical, aging. But she says that she remembered distinctively that she woke up with it there. And but anyway, though, interesting though, that because of the family homes and stuff like that, that they had generationally passed in that house, at my grandmother's house, at least in that case.
Yeah, I mean, just the sometimes just that's just physical, like the stress, the power of stress, what it can do to your
That's it.
body. You
Yeah,
know,
overnight.
yeah, it's so that's one of the things. Like if you can, it can wear you down. It can, it can put your health at risk if you let yourself, get too stressed out to a point. I was listening to a lot of doctors and stuff like that on like sport medicine and stuff like that because of fighting and all that. And that was one of the things they always talk about. Like, okay, do you need this? Do you need that? He's like the number one thing. All of them I've heard say is like, how much rest do you get? How much sleep do you get? You know, what is your personal life, your stress level? So it's like that's like the two things. So if you're not sleeping well and you get a whole lot of stress, it don't matter, if for like men take TRT or whatever else, it won't really help you that well unless you clean up your diet and eliminate the stress and everything and and get your sleep schedule right. But but that just makes me want that just stuff like that. Like yeah, here, people age overnight. People can age because of situations like my grandfather. He went to the first. He had gone to a tour through Korea, came back, and he did a tour through Vietnam, and he got gray hair during Vietnam. Then he came back over to the States and on leave, and the gray hair went away. But then when he would turn around and went did another tour of Vietnam, his second tour, the gray hair stayed and never, So it was that stress level can affect your body, and I always joke about it. Like all my
Oh,
hair
for
went
sure.
gray from a few bad relationships. My grandfather, it took like two tours of Vietnam. It took me a couple bad relationships, um, but it can truly happen, and that's sad. And that stress level happened on that. And
Yeah,
hey,
and
Miss Karen, I was gonna say hi to Miss Karen real quick.
yeah, yeah. Also, the family members seeing having paranormal experiences around family members that are you know are in that transition of getting ready to pass. I've found so many accounts of similar experiences with that. My
Hmm.
family has had experiences with that with my grandma that passed away, um, where she would be talking to people in the room and they wouldn't be able to see them, but it was conversations with family. There's even a couple of times where my grandma said something like, get that man out of the room. There's a man here and he doesn't belong here." And eventually it stopped. Like he did go away. Um, so yeah, it's just odd. And I mean, as far as I know, she did pass away in that bedroom, which was her bedroom for 60 plus years.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so or at least 50. So yeah, more probably closer to 50. I'm thinking of like today's date, but no, still that's a long time. That's the same house where the neighbor's mom was the original owner of that house, uh, and that's the same person that my grandma and my dad and I all saw it, and my cousin all saw at different points in time over the years, uh, and later figured out, once I started talking about it with everyone. Of course, it had to be me that brought it all together, but um, yeah. So I mean, there was just I don't know a lot of that's one of those places where I tend to go back there in my dreams a lot too. Uh, so, but yeah, there's just a lot going on there. My grandpa, when my grandpa was getting ready to pass, my sister had a dream about his passing before it happened. She had a dream where she was standing in front of where he passed, which is his chair, favorite chair, and a bunch of family members standing around and singing one of his favorite songs in Spanish. and then she had this feeling like she had to get out there to their house. And of course, she got out there, and he wasn't passed away yet. But when he did pass, everyone started singing just the way she had seen in that dream.
Oh
So it was
wow,
literally a premonition.
for sure.
So
Yeah, that's wild. So like, I had a dream of my grandmother's funeral after the fact, and I saw my grandmother at the funeral, and she was like upset about how she was dressed for her funeral, and
mm,
then like she talked about like in the dream, she was talking about my cousin. It was my littler cousin who was a little younger than I was, and that she was pregnant. And that sounds silly, but anyway, so I told my mother about it, and it turns out that like before any of that, that my cousin Stacy, that she was pregnant. It was super weird, and I saw it in a dream at my grandmother's funeral because my cousin was at the funeral, and she was pregnant at the funeral, and my grandmother was talking to me about it in the dream.
wow.
Wow. Yeah, I was sitting there, make me think about it. I was like thinking about what mom came on here and talked about, and like with my grandfather had, and even not just before death, like getting to that point of you could possibly like he when he had that quadruple bypass, and then a month later he had an aneurysm, and they had to open up his heart again. And I remember the doctors were like said that it truly wasn't like it wasn't their hands in there working. It was they were really mystified about the situation that happened, and he healed. Um, but my mom went in had gone in there um, with my grandma and stuff, and she told it. She can tell it better than me. Of course, she was there, but she told about how she walked in and like the ghost of my great grandma was sitting beside him, and she had been passed away a long time when all that happened. I know over 10 years for sure. If I remember, yeah, for sure, at least 10 years. And she was sitting beside the bed and holding his hand, and but he did recover from that. So I mean, even when they get in that point of that edge, people that have that sightings of seeing people there or seeing people in the corners, and if I remember right, Mom was telling when he did pass it, that she see stuff in the in the room and stuff like that. I don't remember seeing anything personally. My mom was kind of sideways at the time anyway, so it was kind of one of them things. But it is amazing to hear these stories where people can see loved ones or possibly angels. They've seen a little bit of everything, or even spirit. I mean not spirit, but shadow people in the corners.
Hmm.
Waiting like they're waiting on them to cross over.
And it's amazing to me that the rare case the ones that like when a certain family member appears in someone's dreams after they passed, and they appear a handful of times, like I've had with my grandma. I have a few grandparents that have passed, but my grandma on my dad's side is the one that has appeared most often in my dreams, and like I don't know, four or five times total over the years since she passed. And I mean, my her husband, my grandpa, appeared a couple times. My other grandpa who passed appeared once. So there's something about my grandma, the one that passed, that I don't know if there was a we had a special connection more so than other sibling, or other of her grandchildren, or what, or if I'm just because I'm more sensitive. But I've talked about this before. I've had a few experiences with that where she's come back, and first time she just wanted to tell me she was okay. One time she told me I needed to take vitamins, and that was like all I remembered of our conversation from the dream. And I took them for a while, and that was fine. And I stopped taking because I forgot. But apparently, I needed them for a certain amount of time because after that, I was fine. So it is odd when it's that question of how why do certain family members appear after they passed, and why do the rest of them not? And of course, there's no real good answer to that. I don't think.
For
Yeah, that's
sure.
super weird. So, like, when my grandpa passed away, they were cleaning out the old house. And so everyone was coming there, like, all the family was coming there and trying to help, with the house and everything. And all of his personal effects and everything. And, there was a radio. So he had a bedside radio that he had put on, and we all, like, be trying to sleep and everything, and he put that radio on to like baseball and weather and everything, and it's just be like it's an AM FM radio. Sorry about fireworks,
That's okay.
but so hold on.
You're good, Jen. Well, a lot of fireworks are going in Jen's. Miss Karen, you should come up and one Sunday and come tell the stories about your grandma.
Yes, that'd be great.
So anyway, he'd play that radio, and it was nightly. So like we'd all say our prayers and everything, and we'd go to bed, and he'd put that radio on, and we'd all go to sleep. And um, I remember listening to that radio my pretty much my whole childhood. Like I remember hearing that at night, at least a good chunk of it. And when he passed away, one of the things I was like, they brought that came around, and I inherited his suit jackets because he would dapper up sometimes, and like he had suit jackets he would wear and stuff like that, and they all look pretty much identical. But like I took his suit jackets when he passed, and I took his radio when he passed, and I got those, and I still have the radio, the jackets I left at my brother's house and everything, but the radio. So this is crazy. So like, I'm talking quite a while into the future, and I was watching my nephew, and I had that. I never played that. Never plugged it in. It was a plug-in radio, and I never plugged it in or anything, and um, I just had it like kind of stored away in the closet and everything. I just kept it. I never used it, not once. Like I hadn't heard it at that point in since my childhood. And I was downstairs and I heard that radio call out my nephew's name. Like
Wow.
I on radio, like I heard. And anyway, I just heard it come. I didn't know it was that radio, but I heard it like and I came upstairs and everything. And my nephew had pulled that radio out, and they were like 3 years old or something, and they had plugged it in and had played that radio. It was crazy, and I swear, it sounded like my grandfather saying their name, and like it was the weirdest thing. And they were saying like it sounded like they were getting onto him, like they said it. I won't say my nephew's name, but they said it in such a tone. It was the weirdest thing. And
That's
I unplugged
amazing.
it. I haven't even plugged it in ever since or anything. I still have it, just on a bookshelf, But it was like the very first time I was ever plugged in because he was plugging in. I don't know. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It was as if it like that whole time there was something weird with it or something. I don't know. Like a
Got onto them for messing with the radio. Leave that radio
yeah.
alone.
I'm
Ain't nobody mess with
serious.
that.
That's what it sounded like.
That's amazing. My older sister, she and her family bought my grandparents' house and lived there for a few years. Eventually, they had to sell it, but they bought it right after my grandma had passed, and there was a point there where they were moving stuff out, like the family was moving stuff out of the house that belonged to my grandparents, and but while my older sister was, her family was moving stuff in, so there was this really, I'm guessing it created a lot of weird energy in that house from all that. But the first night my older sister stayed at the house, she had just laid a blanket on the floor to sleep in the living room, and there was still a bunch of stuff on the out the front porch. There's an enclosed front porch, but and there's still a bunch of stuff from my grandparents out there on it. And this first night that my sister stayed in the house, she woke up in the middle of the night because she heard beeping, and she traced it and went out to the front porch, and it was this old alarm clock that belonged to my grandma from years ago, and it was not plugged in, and there was no batteries in it, and it was beeping, and it went on for a while, and then eventually it stopped, and so we wonder, like, was it our grandma saying hi? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. You hear stories about that, especially old electronics and stuff. That's why they use, especially now, more modern ghost hunters, they use different things, but especially, several years ago, that was they using old technology, old radios, and just getting that static, and you find, hear voices and anything else. So it's maybe it can tune in to the other side, but it had to be some hellacious energy to turn it on, which I've heard a bunch of stories that way,
Hmm.
on shows and stuff where electronics just came on their own, radios and such, and they start playing, toys or flashlights and
Yes, tape players. I
mm,
so one of when I find my experiences I share on my shows, there's this one from this person. They're an adult, but they remember that when they were a kid, they had this little tape player, and it would play even when they had no tape, like no batteries in it for it to play anything. But they still had tape in there, and when we plugged in, and they didn't really. It was kind of weird to them, but didn't really freak them out too badly. But one day they went to show it to one of their parents, like, look what this is doing. This is amazing. Freaked out the parent because they knew there was no batteries in it. They got rid of that tape player. The person never saw it again. Because like it freaked out the parents too much. So, but that's a device that's putting out sound. That's manipulating a solid object, a tape, that was
mm.
somehow operating with no batteries and no plug.
Imagine that happening if it's a Teddy Ruxpin for dating
Yeah,
myself there, but if
I
he
got
had
one of
a
those. I got
uh,
one of those when I was a kid. I just loved it.
have a
I
Teddy
got it from
Ruxpin
my
with no
brother.
tape in it, just start talking and moving his eyes and mouth, da 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 da, and like, yeah, no batteries and no tape deck, tape in there.
yeah,
That would that'd be wild.
yeah.
I'd kick it out of the house if it wouldn't break my foot. And things were kind of had a little girth to them.
I have that weird story about that doll. It's closing out now, but like I told you about that story, I think. So I got this doll for Christmas. It's like the last doll I ever had. I was like 10 years old or something. And I had begged for this doll and I was like super, you know, prayed for it and everything and hoped for it. And I got it. And I remember I first opened it and just being like, ooh, something weird about it. But it's really because I just wanted that doll for like ever. And that very first night, I tried to sleep with that doll. Like, tried to, go to sleep and everything. And um, it got me scared so much. I could feel like this weird energy off of it. And I like went and told them. Went up to the living room. It was dark. I'd walk down the hallway, all the way up to the living room, and it was dark in there. And I was like, I can't sleep. I'm afraid of this doll. It sounds silly now. Anyway, my mom, she took that doll, and she was like, I was telling her, what it was and everything, what it was worried about, and she took it, and I never saw it again. I didn't see it for like, I don't know, 14 years or something like that. Like I was a grown adult, moved out of the house, and she showed up at my house, and was clearing out her house a little bit, and she pulled that ding doll out. She was like, "Do you remember this?" And it was the last thing I expected to see, and I was like, "Yeah, I do." And she had kept that doll wrapped up in her closet all those years.
Wow.
Yeah. And imagine my surprise, it was so weird, but
Yeah,
just
that
odd.
is odd.
Be like, Mom, you can keep on keeping that.
Right? Exactly.
I don't need it. I don't
Yeah.
need it.
I think she thought it was really funny.
I'll bet. Yeah, I can bet.
Yeah, it's dolls are haunted dolls are a thing for a reason. They're really
No
common.
kidding. No, like, okay, so that same doll, I put it up in a spare room. I lived in this old house in Arkansas, and I had put it into a spare room because I still just got the spooks off of it. And I swear, I came up into that room to clear stuff out of it, and it was sitting like facing the window. Like I had put it, I swear, I had put it like on this shelf, but it was like sitting as if it was like positioned when I saw it up there, like it was looking out the window or something. It was the weirdest thing. And I left that doll up in the attic of that old house. So whoever moved into that house after that, there was like an old doll up in the attic. I was so afraid of it. It had the weirdest. It's hard to explain from childhood, like when you get scared of something or why you do. But I could almost feel like it was weird. It felt like somebody, like a real, it felt like it was, and I didn't have the issue with any other thing, but it felt like it was another kid or something. It felt like another person or something. It was weird, and that was the last doll I ever kept. And I never had that issue before that, so it was really weird. But it felt like it's there. There was some like, you know, as if I had like a person come stay over or something. It felt like there was some kind of intelligence to it. That was what was so weird about it.
Wow. And just it was having something like that with attachment. So it was a brand new doll when you got it, or was it a?
Yeah, it was brand new in the box. And it was an expensive doll. That's why it was so special that I got it, and like why it was hard to get. Like why I was like, I really want this, you know. It was one of those American Girl dolls. Have you heard of those? All the girls were like, all the little girls were really excited about that.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
Wow.
Oh, the dolls they got now, they so, look so lifelike. I can't
Yeah.
imagine one of them being possessed or attachment because they already look, look just like a little child or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it came with like a book and a wardrobe. It had all the stuff. She had like a spoon and things. It was so strange. Anyway,
wow,
Hmm.
that's
so it
pretty
was really
nuts.
special to get it. It was terrible. I felt terrible being like, I'm afraid of it, you know, because it was hard to get. I'm sure, you know.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, it's about 9 o'clock. I know it won't be long. Mr. Mike Strange will be shooting off. Jen, you want to do your shout outs and your, you know, plug your shows and everything else?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not as I am so busy a lot of the times, you know, it's not a good excuse, but I don't always get around to posting constant new content for my channel, and so I try to as best I can. But ever so often you'll see something new pop up on my channel, and I try to cover different theories and things most of the time, just ideas. Um, I haven't really. I had posted a lot, and then I had removed some stuff, and then I put some new stuff out. Most recently, I'm working on infinite plane theory. Just kind of a fun idea. It's sort of just sort of a thought experiment, basically, to try to like decipher how it could be possible that there could be an infinite plane. So I've been working on that a lot lately, and always tune in and check it out. And then obviously, I come on with James and visit with him whenever he's doing his show a lot of the times. And then on Mike Strange on his Troubled Mind show. I'll call in often.
For sure, for sure. James, you got your final words?
Yeah. Definitely recommend checking out Jen's channel uh, and all the episodes where she's on with me over on Salsido Paranormal, our show. Like I'm trying to get myself to say more now because I think it's only fair and it's she adds so much to it. So and yeah, so that show that we do is Salsido Paranormal, and you can find all the episodes there and all the links to everything else, social media, and all that at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com, and you can find the links to Jen's show in every episode description there too. So, but yeah, this was amazing. Thank you both, and thank you, Ricky, for having me on as always.
Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all being here. And the the links should be in the description. And you can check them out if you forget or whatever. You can go back and check out the if you don't have to wait and figure out which spot of this show if you're going back and watching it again. But we do have them in the links. We got Jen in there. We got James and many more. So check them out for sure. Appreciate y'all being here. Y'all be. We got some guests. I keep saying that. I do. I might have a very good guest on the hook. Just waiting on scheduling wise. Actually, I got a couple. Got some paranormal shows, paranormal channels, and ghost hunters. More ghost hunters coming. So I reached out to some more, and they're excited about coming. And of course, Wednesday, y'all be here for Ryan Dalton. I said he was on the Sean Ryan show a few weeks back. Uh, EpsteinIsn'tDead.org is his website, and he does lots of amazing things. Um, trying to help stop child trafficking and the such. I said it's going to be a great discussion. I know it will be. I got some fun stuff to add to it. I think some stuff that I found along doing my research to add to the show. He's got thousands of hours, I imagine, of research onto it. So it's gonna be a fun one. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. It's gonna be a good one. And as always, I appreciate y'all. We're gonna keep on keeping on. We're gonna keep on putting out great content as best I can. Um, and again, day shows are coming. I keep saying that every week, and I haven't done one, but they're coming for sure. The new Rumble numbers, I'm gonna have to do some day shows.
You'll get
Rumble's
there.
pushing on me. Rumble's pushing on me to do more. So I'm gonna have to do more. So I appreciate y'all. Of course, as always, we're gonna go teleport over to Trouble Minds, and again, I appreciate y'all. Let me hit the outro, and we'll
Thank
get
you,
out of
Ricky.
here.
Have a good night. Good
You
to see
too,
you,
Jen.
James.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and James, you too.
Yeah, both of you as well. Thank you.
Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sit down with Big Brother. Don't like those RFIDs. Got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I got the blues about my freedom. Got the blues about tyranny. I sat down with Big Brother and the national ID. Don't want a chip in my wallet, chip in my car. And if I want to travel, it's nobody's business how far. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I said shame on Big Brother, always tracking and tracing me. Don't want a chip in my mother, chip in my wife, a chip in my babies. Stay out of our life. Don't want no shackles. Don't want no shackles on me. I sat down with Big Brother, no more slavery. Play it for me, baby. Now, do you want a chip in your forehead, a chip in your arm, always tweaking your brain and causing you harm? Don't want no shackles, don't want no shackles on me. I sit down with Big Brother in the good old USA. I sat down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. Don't want a spy chip in me. Everybody, I sat down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother, down with Big Brother. It's all about liberty.